I was born to two deaf parents. I just heard this commercial on Kiss FM, this new TV show. It's called American Idol. Hey, we want you to come out publicly. We want the story. Hit the charts, and then it kept climbing.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then it hit number 5, and I was like, oh my God. Like,
I'd like to welcome everybody to the show. I got a special guest, American Idol finalist, Jim Verraros. How you doing, my man?
How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm all good, man. I'm very excited about this, podcast episode. We'd like to let's go right into it.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born in Chicago. I was born to two deaf parents, so I grew up fluent in sign language. Oh, wow. And interestingly enough, as I grew up, I didn't get musical influences from my parents. Music wasn't really playing in the house. So really, it came organically for me. I was very drawn to soulful voices, Mariah Carey, George Michael, Whitney Houston. And that really became a driving force for me musically. You know, I can remember driving in the car with my mom, and she'd always put her hand on my throat because that was the way she could feel what my voice sounded like. And in junior high and high school, very much a performer. I was always on stage singing national anthems, very involved in theater. And then when it came time for college, I got a theater scholarship to a small private liberal arts school. And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I think when you're going through high school, the thought is you have to go to college. You have to get an education. You have to be successful. And for me, I was very much focused on being on stage. You know, my dream was to be on Broadway. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to perform. That was my passion. And that doesn't pay the bills sometimes,
right.
You know, and it's risky. So I was very lucky to have two parents that supported that choice.
That's always a good thing
to
have. You know, two supportive figures in your life. Some people don't have that.
They don't. That's very true. So I gave it a go. I finished that first semester, and the school, although a great school, was very small. And it reminded me so much of my high school, and I really wanted more. I wanted diversity. I wanted to be around artists. I wanted to be around dancers and actors and creators. And I think the school didn't really offer that for me. So I decided to go to Columbia in Chicago. Yeah. And it was 2 months in that I had transferred where I get a call from a very good friend. And she says to me, Jim, I just heard this commercial on Kiss FM for this new TV show. It's called American Idol. And I said, that's interesting. She's like, yeah, you could win a record deal.
Right. Hi, I'm Ryan Seacrest.
And I'm Brian Dunkelman.
We are here in LA kicking off a nationwide talent search, looking for the country's next music megastar.
That's right, get ready, Chicago. We're coming your way.
Chicago auditions continue at 8 a.m. on Saturday, April 27th at the Congress Plaza Hotel.
And I thought, yeah, I was like, well, I mean, maybe. Like, why don't I go for the experience, right? And so I'll never forget, Dennis, I walk into the Congress Plaza Hotel on Michigan Avenue.
Right.
And it's the first season. So remember,
this is the very first season.
This is 2002. Nobody knows what this show is, and it's in its infancy, right? So it's just it's almost like a pilot show.
Okay.
It actually originated in the UK as Pop Idol, and so it was very popular. Will Young was the artist that won that first season, and then Fox acquired the rights to it for the US. And so I'm sitting in this room in this huge hotel. And there are a few people with, little mics, headsets on, and I'm sitting there and there's nobody around. And so I walked up to somebody and I said, hey, is this for Idol? Like, I just want to make sure I'm in the right space.
Right.
And she's like, take a seat. We're just waiting for more people to show up, which is hilarious to me because now I see stadiums of people waiting in line, whereas the first season there was nobody.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there, I go into a room, and there's executive producers in this very small room. There's a line of duct tape on the floor and a small kind of video camera old school at the front. You're almost like, is this like an OnlyFans, like porn? I was like a little bit. I was a little afraid. And so
you were by yourself?
I was I was by myself.
How old were you?
I was 19 at the time.
You're 19 years old.
Yeah.
And you're walking in, and you're just like, I'm just gonna take this chance.
Yeah, why not?
I want to do it.
Yeah.
I was just gonna
do it.
Just gonna do it.
Yeah. So they brought, I think, 3 or 4 guys, other contestants in the room with me. And I'm kind of looking at them, and they're looking at me, and, you know, we're just like, okay. And they point to me, and they're like, Jim, you know, go ahead and sing. And I think what was going through my head was, I don't want to do something like bubblegum pop. I wanted to do something a little more jazzy, a little more bluesy. And
what was the song? What was the song that you sang?
Nat King Cole. I think I sang When I Fall in Love for them. And they were like, yeah. Can you do something like pop? And I was like, yeah. So I sang, you know, Lean on Me, which I love that song. It had some kind of soul, but it was pop too. And they were like, okay, great. Thank you so much. We leave the room, and I sit down, and then someone with like a headset sits next to me, and she's got a clipboard, and she's like, hi, Jim. I'm wondering, is there something about you that we wouldn't know just by looking at you? And so I thought, well, yeah, my parents are both deaf. And she was like, what? I said, yeah, my parents are deaf. I'm fluent in sign language. She's like, your parents are deaf? And I said, yes. And there was a light bulb that went off in her head.
Yeah. They probably were like, oh, well, we can probably use this.
This is it, right?
We can make this into
a story, right?
That's I mean, for the majority of the time when you have these shows, right? A lot of times they look for that. Not necessarily sometimes the talent, but they look for stories as well.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have anything to project onto, you know, a live TV or live story, it's like, well, you know, we need something to push this, right?
Right.
Like the machine wants
exactly.
it. And that's what happens when you get signed to a label.
Yeah.
Or when you need to have, you know, nowadays it's like, okay, you have to have X, Y, and Z of
or a
TikTok,
TikTok, right? Like something that goes viral. Right?
Something.
Yeah.
So that's what they look for. And that's very unique that happened to you, you know what, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still relevant now.
Yeah.
Stuff like that happens, you know, now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can go a little bit more in depth on that. And then what else? What did she tell you after that experience?
So she was like, you know, we're going to do callbacks, and the callbacks will be in front of the judges.
Okay.
And I wasn't familiar with Randy Jackson, but Randy was obviously worked with Mariah, you know, Journey, producer, right? Like he had a huge career. And then Simon Cowell, I was like, I don't really know much about him. Right. I just knew of him as sort of like this kind of, you know, asshole British guy,
he's
right?
Kind of like UK, right?
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I don't really, you know, but Paula, obviously, I was like, oh my God, you know, that kind of sold me, right? So you get called back, I walk in, tell them what I'm going to sing. And then Paula said, hey, you know, can you tell us about your parents? And I said, sure. And so I sang When I Fall in Love by Nat King Cole, but Paula wanted me to sign it in sign language at the same time. Which I was not prepared for. Like this is a talent. It was sloppy, and I wasn't very good at it, and I was nervous because I'd never signed and sang and for an audition, right? Like I was just like not thinking about that.
Jim Verraros explains how his wish is that his deaf parents could hear him sing.
Okay. What's your name?
My name is Jim Verraros.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
And it says something here about your parents. What's that?
Actually, both my parents are deaf. I've grown up being fluent in sign language. It's kind of sad, though, because since I've been a singer for so long, my parents will never be able to hear me sing. So it's been one of my huge dreams, just for them, just like one day, just to like hear it, just magically just hear it, and it just doesn't happen. But nevertheless, they are at every single one of my shows, like whether they can hear or not.
Okay, and what are you going to sing?
I'm going to sing When I Fall in Love by Nat King Cole.
Great song.
Fabulous. Okay, off you go.
When I fall in love, it will be forever, or I'll never fall in love in a restless world like this is. Love is ended before it's begun, and too many moonlight kisses seem to cool in the warmth of the sun.
Fabulous. And I think you did great. Randy, yes or no to the next phase, Hollywood?
I say yes to the next phase.
Paula?
Absolutely. You have a real nice, pure voice. Keep that going.
Okay, Jim, you are coming back to Hollywood.
Oh my God! All right. Oh my freaking God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
They loved you.
They
loved
me.
you.
They loved
Who did
me.
they love?
They loved me.
They loved.
Oh my God.
So it wasn't perfect, and I'm sure once it hit the, we didn't have social media back then because this was 23 years
There's
ago.
no social media, right?
None. We had message boards like on Fox.com. So, my signing wasn't great, but they were very complimentary about my voice, and they thought I had a good tone, and so they ended up putting me to Hollywood, and I didn't know what that meant. Again, 19, small town.
Right.
I was just like, what does this mean? They fly you out to Pasadena.
Wow.
It's not Hollywood.
So
Pasadena.
from the group that was from Chicago,
Yeah.
right? You're born and raised in Chicago on American Idol, this new show that's on Fox. How many people from Chicago actually made it out? Like from what I'm saying, from that interview, right, or that show that audition.
So I think probably maybe 7 or 8 of us
Okay.
from Chicago
Yeah,
went to Pasadena.
Okay.
So, and then when you made it to Pasadena, you were with 120 people.
Oh, wow.
So 120 from the entire country were all flown in, right?
Okay, in Pasadena.
And then it was like, you're going to do, I will never forget this. Round 1 was you got up on the stage in a theater, right? And Kelly Clarkson was probably 6 people down from me.
Oh.
And men sang, I think, Hero by Enrique Iglesias at the time. I'm not sure I can't remember what the women sang, but I went and I was okay. And then Kelly was like 5 or 6 people next to me, and I will never forget. She opens her mouth to sing, and I looked down the way, and I was like, Jesus,
You were like,
Christ! Like, you can just send me home. Like, I'm awful. She should win this whole thing.
right. You already knew off the bat.
I was
right?
like, this girl's insane.
The
How good
winner
she
was
is.
sitting 6
Done.
rows down.
Done. The minute she opened her mouth, and I was like,
she's amazing.
amazing.
Like working with her, just being around her, like what was that like?
She is everything that you would want her to be and more.
Wow.
She's and it's been a couple of years since she and I connected. She because she's got her talk show now, but she did a little kind of Where Are They Now from a few of us, and so we sent in footage and she aired it on her on her
nice.
talk show. And so she's incredibly smart. She's so funny, and just the best vocalist. Period.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I
period.
put her up there, probably top
Mariah,
10.
Celine,
Yeah, definitely.
Whitney, Kelly. Like she's
she's amazing. I actually seen her live.
Yeah.
I've been to one of her shows, and
she's exceptional.
She just reminds me of, you have those core artists that, like I call them lost, like a lost art.
Yeah.
Right? Like nowadays, I mean, not, there's a lot of great artists nowadays,
sure.
but
Yeah.
that artist that just captivate you, that grabs you with her vocals, just raw vocals, like,
She's
like Mariah.
Such a storyteller though,
Yeah,
too.
it's
She just like
amazing. She
pulls you in, and you're like, it's as if, and she covers so many songs
just
on her
stay there.
show. You're like, did you write that? Because you sang it like you wrote it.
Yeah.
That's such a rare ability, and I think she's just incredible at that.
I mean, I do you think that being in a competition like that, obviously, enhances you guys and it makes you guys better?
Yeah.
Because you guys are in a competition.
Right.
You guys are, how was that whole ordeal where, I mean, because I know on TV they make it seem like, you're there for, a couple months and you're probably not there for a couple months, maybe a couple weeks or a couple days. Like, how was that process? Like, as far as like 100 people together, how was that? Like,
it's nerve-wracking. You don't know what to expect, and you're put into these situations where you're given very little time, you're on very little sleep, and keep in mind too, Dennis, when Idol first started, your options to sing songs on national television were very limited because it was more expensive to get the rights to clear if something was very, very recent. So I'll never forget, we had a list of like 8 songs, and I was like,
also, they gave you guys lists.
there was like, here's a list of songs that you can pick. It wasn't like anything because if it aired on national television, it was very expensive.
Okay, so it's kind of like YouTube. If you sing a song, it's not copywritten, they take it down, but they can't use it.
Right. But if it was older, like from the 70s, or if it was
a
Motown, then it was more cost effective for.
So that's why I think that season I think there was more older songs being sung,
like
right?
big band and Motown and like Broadway.
They didn't give you options to sing like your own personal songs. I think they do that now.
Yeah, they do that now, which
They
I
do
love
that
because
now.
it actually gives the audience to see artistry.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of contestants who have been doing this for a long time who
Yeah.
go and play, bars and venues and, have already established fan bases,
Yeah.
right? And some of us didn't. And, we sang to track, they didn't bring in a live band for us until you got to like the top 5, right? When they were doing like big band.
The big band and the shows were like now voting for Jim. Dial,
Right. Dial 1866, Idol's
Yeah.
09, right? And so it's interesting to see Idol kind of, change and evolve into what it is now. But we really were guinea pigs. We really were such let's see what happens with these kids and
You're the
throw them in
trial.
this. Yeah, exactly.
You guys were the trial
We were the guinea
babies.
pigs. Yeah.
And out of like that core group, was it just Kelly that made it like, to the ultimate goal? I believe it was. I think you had another contestant. I forget the name. I think it was like top 3 or something like that. That did well as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like everyone's definition of success is different, right? So Kelly obviously went on to do very, very well. Grammys. She has her own talk show.
Right.
All the things, right? Justin Guarini, who was second runner-up,
Right, Justin.
incredibly talented, did Broadway for many, many years after Idol. Also had a deal with RCA. Also put out a record. Tamyra Gray, incredible talent. Also got signed to RCA. She put a record out. Did Broadway as well. And RJ was signed to a Christian label. And again, a lot of us had some great pieces of success. I was 9th. So for me, I felt like I had to work twice as hard because I didn't have as much exposure as the first 5, 6 did.
Right.
So it took me a couple of years before I finally got my record deal, and that was in 2005 with Kosh Records, which is now MNRK.
Okay.
So Snoop Dogg's label.
Right.
With Kosh, I had worked with an amazing producer. His name is Gabe Lopez. He did my entire first album. And I was so damaged coming off of that show that I didn't even realize that music was even possible. Right. Simon said, when I was eliminated, if you win this competition, like we will have failed. And I was like, all right, that's a little overdramatic.
Jim, it was actually kind of boring for me. There were a couple of notes that I thought that you sang pretty flat, and it was very uninspiring for me.
I disagree. I think this is probably one of the best performances you've given thus far. So I say, good job.
I don't think that was good enough because you have just followed a star. And I thought you looked ordinary up there in comparison. Yeah. And I think if you win this competition, we would have failed. So I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That was that was his response to your final
and I was like,
song, right?
I was like, okay, like
it's a little harsh.
I was like, all right, well, you gave me 8 songs to choose from, so
Right.
if I would have had more time, again, it was what it was.
He just practices to be an asshole sometimes.
Well, he's very good. He doesn't need to practice at all.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be an asshole today. I'm just let me just
But if there was no Simon, there'd be no Idol.
Yeah.
So Simon really was that show.
I watched. Like I was a big fan.
Yeah.
I think me and you are very close in age. I think
yes.
I'm 41.
We're the same. Yeah.
We're about the same age. Mm-hmm. We come from that cloth, right?
Yes.
And I watched, and I'm a musician and artist, and I took pieces of that as well. And I think a lot of artists that are in the industry now would like to know of your journey, mm-hmm. of the do's and the don'ts and the sacrifices and everything that's caught up in the middle, right? Like we talked about this earlier a little bit. You're born, and you have your journey of life, and then you we leave this earth, right? We die.
Yeah.
That's what's given in the world.
Right.
We live, we're born, we die, right? And we get caught up in the middle. But us musicians, we have this thing where it's just it's our passion. Like we can do this forever. Mm-hmm. I think if you're a true musician, it doesn't matter how long you go, you're always gonna create music.
So true.
There's always a room for that,
yeah.
right? What would you give those people that are listening right now and watching?
Yeah.
What advice would you give them Just one, like right now, off the top of your head, that you would do differently than then from what you know now.
Oof, God, there's so much I would have done differently. I think first and foremost, you are unique, and I think that there is room for everyone in this industry. We so often compare ourselves to artists who are very successful, the Grammy winners, the VMA winners, the millions and millions and millions of likes and followers on social media. What we have to bring it back to is what brings you joy. And I think that there are so many incredibly talented people in this world who hesitate, who feel that they're not good enough, or they don't have the right look, or they're not comfortable in their own bodies, or maybe they just don't feel like they could be popular. Right. And to that, I say, put down the measuring stick, right? Demi Moore literally said this when she won the Golden Globe, right? Yeah. Put down the measuring stick and I think hone in on what makes you you, because that is how people are successful. I mean, there's a reason why, people become very, very big, and it's the originality, it's the uniqueness. And I think, you are you, and that is what will make you special.
Yeah, just let it out.
Yeah.
Don't hold back. I really believe in that's a very good message right there. But Jim, let me let me be real quick. I'm gonna address the elephant in the room.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna just let it out.
Lay it on me.
Back then, you had to hide who you really were.
Yeah.
You couldn't really express certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Being American Idol contestant, 100 people, I'm sure there was diversity,
yeah,
ethnicity,
absolutely,
religion, different backgrounds,
yeah,
everything. 100 people, right?
Yeah.
And there's, room for things that, come out and don't come out.
Yeah.
And sometimes the producers say, hey, we can't do this, we can't do that. You were probably one of the first openly gay contestants. How was that? Like, how was that back then? Like, now I know it's more accessible in the industry, more or less.
I mean,
but I really would like to have your opinion on this thing. And honestly, like, that's one of the things that caught me is like, man, like going through that and holding, like not able to express who you really are, or feel a certain way, or say things, or like, hey, if I say something, I might get kicked out the show, or maybe, not get views or not get votes, or, how hard was that? Like,
I will say this. I was very, very aware of how I said things, how I sounded, how high my voice was, because I was very, very afraid that people would count me out of the competition because I was gay. And as we come to find out many years later, a lot of the viewers really kind of come from the southern part of the US. And so I think that when you see a queer person or a person who is different, and that makes you feel a certain way, whether you're uncomfortable, you're afraid of it because you don't know it, you are very quick to dismiss or say something negative about that person or that artist. The landscape was very different.
Yeah.
23 years ago. So let me preface that. But, now we're in a time where all of that's being rolled back in many, many ways. But I am grateful because I feel in some small way that being visible, which obviously being born and raised in Puerto Rico, this too.
Yeah.
When you are of Puerto Rican descent, whether you are LGBTQIA community, and you are visible, you are in television, movies, in music, and we see you. We grow up and we see examples of us in the media. That is why I think it gives us power to continue to push. And so at 19, I was very scared on that show. I was just I would remember to speak a little bit lower because I didn't want to be too effeminate on the show.
Right. Or be judged. Or
be judged,
like
or just because there was a lot of hate mail that I got. There was a lot of negativity on the message boards on Fox. I mean, people would say a faggot will never win American Idol. So I got a lot of it. And I thank God to this day that we didn't have social media because I probably would not have survived.
Wow.
So looking back, I'm so glad that I did what I did at the time because I think of the young boys in Kentucky or Mississippi who maybe watched me on that show and thought, oh, Jim looks like me, or Jim feels like me. And so I'm maybe going to pursue that career in music or film or stage.
Or be okay to express myself
or,
in a certain
or
way.
just be me.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Because back then we didn't have a lot of mainstream representations in music, right? George Michael was British. Elton John was British. You know, we had Rufus Wainwright, Katie Lang at that time. Ellen DeGeneres had just come out a few years after or before I did. Right. So I was very afraid. But I think looking back, you know, I hope that I set the tone and I opened doors for other, you know, queer youth, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think just having the courage to do it, you know, and just say, hey, you know, I'm gonna just put it all out there, you know, be you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember, you know, my mother used to tell me all the time, just be yourself. You know, a lot of people will always tell me, you know, music is not a career or music is, you're wasting your time, son.
Yeah.
And, you know, we feel a certain type of way. I you know, coming here, like, you know, learning, you know, languages, learning a new language is, you know, a whole challenge. People make fun of you, bully you, you know, and it's hard to get into that level to be like comfortable to express yourself and get on stage in front of hundreds or 10, 20 people or, you know, sometimes like in your case, you know, you've performed in front of millions of people on Idol.
Yeah.
And they watched you on TV. Mm-hmm. So that and all just takes so much courage, and I'm so proud of you. And I have so much respect for you as a person and as an artist, and you know, I'm grateful to be your friend, and I'll have you on the show and, you know, talk about this stuff because I strongly believe a lot of people need to hear some of this stuff, you know. And it's sometimes hard to talk about stuff, you know. It's hard to talk about your feelings, and I think a lot of problems nowadays, you know, that takes a toll because it messes with your mental health, with your physical health. You know, being bullied and going through things like, oh, you know, I have a lot of singers that are so self-conscious about stuff.
Yes.
And now, you know, they break out of these things because they see people and artists like yourself breaking through that barrier. And it could be someone with a list. Yeah. Someone with, you know, an eye that goes this way a little bit. And they're, you know, they're so self-conscious about that. Yeah. But they don't, you know, they don't understand that those are the things that make you that make you unique, right? Those are things that make you stand out.
Absolutely.
That make you shine. That make that star in the sky is like boom, blinking. That's you. Yeah. And that's what we have to have more or less in this world. Is more people and artists of your character to come out and say, hey, this is my experience. I'm letting it out. Like, this is what it is. You know, love me or hate me. Yeah. You know, that's what I do. I just stick my middle finger in there and just say, hey, whatever it is me. If you don't like it, there's a door.
Seriously.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, that's what it is. And man, it's exciting to just hear, like, you know, and also like sad in a way, but I'm glad that you went through that, because I think you wouldn't be the person that you are today if you didn't have that experience. For sure. That you didn't take that leap. Yeah. Right? You didn't just go into that, hey, you know, like those are the fun parts of it. If you go really back and you go back to look at your experience. Yeah. We know that you went through a lot of stuff, right? And that this went wrong or this went wrong, but at the end of the day, it's like, man, what an experience. Like, just your story is just epic for me.
Thanks.
You know,
thank you.
Like, it's just like we can talk about it all day. Yeah. You know, just going back with that is just like, did anyone? So as far as the producers, right?
Yeah.
You have your producers, you have your contestants,
Right.
Did any of the in the contestants base, did they know? Like,
Yeah.
did they know, or were you like standoff with everybody, or
No.
you just not tell this person? Like, did they
No,
know?
Yeah,
Like,
I was very, very open with everybody.
you
Yeah.
were really open about it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, especially as artists, I'm sure you can agree with this. If you can't be yourself as an artist, you're going to be at an impasse with yourself. You can't give your true self to other people as an artist
Yeah.
if you can't be real.
Did
right?
they censor you?
So there was a time when I was in college before I auditioned for the show. I used to keep do you remember LiveJournal? So
Yeah.
it was like a diary online,
like a diary
right?
online. Mm-hmm.
And you know, I used to talk about going on dates with guys, and it was just like, you know, just my own little, you know, my own way of finding an outlet, right?
Yeah.
And then once Idol had sort of picked up and sort of taken off, you know, they said, we need you to delete your journal. And I was like, okay. And I just listened to them because this is Fox instructing me to do so. So I said, sure, you know, whatever. Somebody had copy and pasted all of my journal entries and then put it on a separate website. So when I shut that down, it was already out.
Wow.
So you could read many, many journal entries that I had been, you know, writing.
So they went into your thing and copied and pasted.
Someone did, yeah.
You don't even know who did it.
No, yeah. So, and then at that point, you know, then people from Out and Advocate, once we went on tour, were like, hey, we want you to come out publicly. We want the story, you know, because we know you're gay. And at that time, I hadn't told my father yet. My mom knew.
You're just hoping that they ain't reading none of that stuff, or
It was just at that point where, do I go back in the closet and hide, or and also be just not my authentic self, which is everything that I don't stand for,
right?
You know, or I have nothing to be ashamed of, you know, and I don't want people to feel like they should feel ashamed. So it was sort of that moment where like I had to tell my dad because I was about to go public with it at 19 years old. Before my career even started, everyone told me not to. Every agent, every manager said, your career will be done before it starts if you do this.
You're creating a career suicide.
Right, this is it.
This is it. If you do this, it's done.
And I said, you know,
It's done and done.
I guess it is what it is, you know. So
And then, I mean, how did it turn out? Like, what was the outcome of everything? Like,
I got my record deal a couple years later, so I wasn't done.
Yeah.
You know, I think that at the time, you know, I think labels were like, what do we do with an openly gay artist? How do we package you? How do we market you? Where do you go to perform? What kind of audience do we need to kind of form for you? And I said, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Just literally, why don't we do some pop-ups at some gay bars in New York, Miami, LA? Like, let's build a buzz. Like, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. But when you're dealing with a small label, there's not a lot of money there. And so they signed me because I had given them a 10-song album that was done. All they had to do was distribute it.
Right.
So
and you were 19.
well, that was, so Idol happened when I was 19, so 2020, so 22.
So 22 was your record deal.
Yeah, 22, 23, yeah.
So you basically were shelved for the entire time you were on Idol.
Yeah.
You could not sign any contract.
No.
You could not perform anything. You could not like do anything outside of American Idol.
I could perform, but I just couldn't sign a contract for a deal or anything like that.
Was it like NDAs signed or like?
Well, so once you made the top 10, I will never forget this. They have all 10 of us in a room, and they are giving us
Bibles to sign.
Yeah. And they say, you have 24 hours to review and sign. And so all of us are sitting in this room, right? So Kelly, me, Justin, Tamara,
no lawyers
Nikki.
or nothing.
And so they said, we're going to give you an attorney to review. And we were like, we don't trust that attorney. So I remember Justin got on the phone, and he comes from the music industry, but he had a family friend who was able to review the contract for us.
Right. Okay.
And at that point, you know, when you are so close to being in the top 10,
it's kind of hard to turn around.
what would you do?
Yeah.
You know, and I think all of us were just like,
here you go.
This is what it is. And we all have to, you know,
I remember when I signed my first deal and I saw, I was like, whoops, all those zeros.
Right, done.
Let's go.
No one teaches you.
No one teaches you those things, and that's more or less like conversations that we have. Like that's an awesome conversation. Like what? Like did you guys end up signing?
Yeah,
like,
we all did.
So you guys just signed away. Didn't know. Like you guys got your little, lawyer to look over it.
We did. Yeah.
And he said it was okay, and you guys just went ahead and did it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So every time was it like, okay, just one contract and done, or was it every round or every like?
It was several contracts.
So it was several contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just one. So it was every time you got further,
Mm-hmm.
it got more in detailed.
Yeah.
Right. The contract got more in detailed. So they broke it down top 10, maybe top 5, and then
after 10, I mean, I was eliminated at 9, so I'm not sure if there were additional contracts past the 10.
Past 10.
But yeah, I mean, I just remember. It's like no one teaches you about reading the fine print and what a contract means and how a label what they can do and the money that they can pay you or not pay you. And it's so overwhelming. And that's the one thing that I wish is that after American Idol and you go off the show and you finish your tour, like I wish that there would have been a mentorship that Idol would have sort of said, hey, for the next year, we're going to set you up with some managers. We want to make sure that you feel good. We want to
business
because
consultants.
Idol benefits when more contestants succeed, right?
Yes.
It makes Idol look more credible.
Absolutely.
But it's like they throw you to the wolves and they're like, figure it out.
Yeah.
And so here I am coming from Crystal Lake, Illinois, the small town in the suburbs, and I'm packing up my life to go to LA to make it.
Right.
How do you make it? Who tells you how to do it?
Right.
Who tells you how to figure it out? This was a time when I was in the studio with my producer Gabe, and we were trying to get demos together to send to like Maverick and Warner and Jive, and I was just like, it was old school that way.
You're just trying to packet it up on a CD and or
networking, going to parties,
networking.
shaking hands, meeting people, trying to be seen, and it's like there is no blueprint to it. Like you had to kind of trial and error it.
Yeah. And so I think some artists like get like you said, have friends that know someone or has a relative that was in the business.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Right? And a lot of the times those are the people that kind of break out. Like some of the artists that break out that comes to my head like that is like, I think about like Miley Cyrus, right? Like her dad was famous, and he already knew everything in the business, so she had that, already at the door, right?
Yeah.
And
but Miley also had an incredible talent.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's great,
incredible.
But, like, for what I'm saying is like, how many Miley Cyruses are out there that don't have that?
Right.
Right.
That's so true. Yes.
That's my point, right? It's like I'm not counting anything about Miley Cyrus. I love Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Totally.
What I'm saying is like how many of like quality artists that were on the show that didn't have a story or didn't have someone or connect and didn't get far or didn't get that chance or that opportunity.
It's so true.
Right?
Yes.
And those are the things that I kind of look at as far as like now I think it's more diverse. I think they're very changing that.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of stories like yours.
Yeah.
Like stories like, Kelly's.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like she had a lot. I mean, she opened up a lot about the show as well and her experiences and all of the stuff she went through. And I just kind of like look at, because you guys are like in my age range.
Yeah.
So I kind of like really resonate with that core group of Idol first season.
You and I grew up the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, that could have easily be me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And or people I know, or it's like, what do we do with that, right? We grow and we try to get better and better. And now we're what, season 24?
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
And I love that it provides, it's the beautiful thing about Idol is that it gives you a fan base, an established fan base. So people want to hear from you. They want to know what you're going to do. But if you wait too long to give them a product, an album, a single,
you forget.
It's over, right?
Yeah.
So I think you have to capitalize on that moment, on that win. And even if you don't win,
just do it.
I can't stress enough how many talented Idol like contestants there are that it's unfair that they didn't get their opportunity to shine. But don't count us out, because
Yeah.
a lot of us are hustling. We're fine tuning. We're honing our craft. We're working in the studio. We're backup singing for some major artists. So many of us are still working. You know, I just don't want people to forget that there's so much talent that comes out of Idol.
Yeah.
So pay attention, because they're doing big things.
I think you know, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you know, I talk to my brother about this all the time, and he talks to me. You know, he has a great story as well. You know, he was a kid from Humboldt Park. You know, we grew up single mom. You know, on the streets, going back and forth, and you know, he's a big executive on NBC right now. And he's on the Golf Network, and he's working big. But
it's incredible.
It's just opportunity.
Yeah,
he got the opportunity, and he did what our mom, you know, taught us to do when we grew up. Is just take those opportunities, and like she used to say, run with it.
Yeah,
like just go, do it. If you fail, you fall. It's okay. You get up, do it again. Like what can happen? What can happen? What's the worst that can happen? They tell you no, and he did it. That boy, he ran and did it, and I told it's the same. You know, the life, and anything you do in life, whether it's music, whether it's your career, whether it's your workplace, whether it's anything, your relationship with your significant other, everything has challenges, barriers to go through, and if you don't try, you don't communicate, you don't do the things that need to progress, you'll never know.
Right.
Or you fail.
Right.
You know, or you fail. And that's the whole, you know, moral of you know, the story that I'm trying to project with these conversations that I have with, you know, established artists like yourself, and, you know, brand new artists that have never seen a contract, or they're so happy. And I get excited when I see those artists, because I'm like, man, you bringing me back.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm like, man, I remember those little goosebumps and stuff. But once it becomes that, you know, the business of it, the sharks come out, you really need to do your homework.
Artists have to educate themselves on the business side, because it's so easy to get caught up in a label saying, we'll sign you. But it's what does that contract say? How long is it for? Do they own your writing, your publishing? How much of your, you know, your own art do they own? And is it a 6-album contract? Is it a 2-album? And it's like, do you have to pay back that advance if you don't take off, right? So, so many things that people have to really be conscious of. But I think, I think you agree too, Dennis, I think we're at a time right now, particularly with music, that there are so many platforms and so many avenues to get the music out.
Oh yeah, it's not like before.
No.
So it's not like, I had these conversations multiple times with different people on my show about like the streaming platforms and the Facebook and the Instagram and the TikToks. Like it's like so diverse now. You don't really need like the labels like before.
Yeah.
You know, labels, like now everybody has studios in their apartments, in their bedrooms.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure. Yeah.
Like it's crazy the way that music has, you know, evolved, and for somewhat, I think music like has evolved, but it's become a little bit saturated, I feel.
Yeah.
There's like not a lot of quality music out there, right? And you know, I was thinking about this when I heard your song. We'll talk about that in a little bit right now, because that blew me away when I heard it. But I'm like, man, it was like the last time you did music was at 22, right? 22 years old, your first record label. Yeah. Right? It was 22?
Yeah. Well, I think I had 2 albums out. So
2 albums
out.
out.
It was 12 years.
So
before.
12 years.
Yeah.
So 12 years, right? So you stopped doing music.
Yeah.
After that, right? You were like, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's too stressful. Or like, what was the cause of you like saying, no, I'm done?
I think it just wasn't fun anymore, you know? And I think it's because when something stops being fun, or the label drops you and it's all about hit, or, you know, you just lose momentum and you lose steam, or you run out of money, you know? And I just think at that time I was just like, you know, I think it's time to get a 9-to-5, you know, and it's like time to grow up, Jim. So I moved back home, and
yeah. So that was pretty intense, right? Because it's like, man, now it's over.
Yeah.
And then, what was it?
You know what?
And then I was like, oh, what is this? Take a bow.
Yeah.
my friend Arlette.
Yes.
Shout out to Arlette.
Listen,
Arlette
this
Vox.
girl, you guys check her out, Arla Vox on iTunes. Her songs, Burn It Up, Deja Vu, she's so amazing. Dennis produced them both. I'm such a fan, but I love her. I asked her to do me a favor and do backup vocals on Take My Bow for me. And she's just a star.
So we do take a bow.
Yeah.
Right? She jumps on the thing. She runs to me. She's like, you hear this? And I'm like, who the heck is that?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And she tells me who it is, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know this guy. But that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, is he back?
Yeah.
Take a bow. Let's talk about Take a Bow.
Yeah.
Like, what made you come back? Like,
that's a good question. I think, and I'm sure you can agree on this. When you are an artist, that never leaves you.
never.
It's like a pilot light, right? It's like, do I touch it or do I just let it burn?
Right.
And I think I just got to a point where I was just itching. It just like the desire was just like it hit like a level where I was like, I need to do something. And part of that, I will speak to a dear friend of mine. Her name is Amy. And she comes over to our house one night and she takes us to a piano bar. And we sit, it's in West Loop in Chicago. And Amy, she knows the owner of this piano bar. And there's this redhead and she's sitting at the piano bar. She's got an amazing voice. Her name is Anna. And she sounds like a mix of like Miley, Dolly, a little bit of Pink. Like she just has this gritty, sandpapery, but like a voice that just cuts your, like she sings from some, like that girl's been through some shit. You know what I mean?
Sucks you in.
And when we're sitting in the corner of the bar and I'm just watching her.
Right.
And Amy leaves our table and she goes right up to Anna at the piano and she's like, "Pup, pup, pup." And I'm like, oh shit.
It's going down.
And so Amy comes back and she's like, you're singing with her. Go up there right now. And I was like, fuck. Okay. And I'm like, you know, I've had some vodka sodas.
Right.
So I'm like, shit. And like, if I drink too much, I get pitchy. And so I'm like, fuck, I'm not.
You just did it.
I'm just like, not in my element, but whatever. Like, let's just roll with it. And so I sit down next to her and she's like, hi. She's like, do you want to sing? And I was like,
sure.
She's like, let's do something together. You know, she was very sweet. And we sang, I think we sang George Michael, but then we sang Stand By Me together.
Okay, Stand By Me. That's your go-to, I know.
I mean, it was just, I was like, listen, I got to figure something out.
Right.
And she was she's so talented. She was so sweet. And I think that's when it really was like, okay.
Yeah, it lit.
It was like, this is it. Like it was this intimate. There wasn't even like a lot of people in like the bar, but it was like.
It didn't matter. It
didn't matter. I was like, that's it. And then I was just like, I'm going to make this happen. Like I found the producer, Lave, you know, his name is Zach Jablow. He's produced for, you know, Chance the Rapper, amazing talent. Reached out to him and I was like, hey, it's been a long time. I want to come back. He's like, okay, let's do it. I'm game. And he's like, what's the sound? What's the vibe? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, who am I? What am I doing? And it's like, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, we came across this incredible songwriter, Jace Green, exceptional talent. He's working with me on my EP and just incredible talent. So I was getting this young sensibility from this 23, 24-year-old songwriter. Right. I had Zach, who had this hip hop, you know, kind of R&B vibe. And I was like, okay.
Your team is forming.
It's like happening, right?
Yeah.
And like
the pieces are just, boop, 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 boop. That's the best time.
It's the best time.
When those pieces fall in.
But when that song hit the waves, it was Sam Smith and Kim Petras' Unholy.
I remember, man.
That song came out and I was like, holy shit. Yeah. Like it was sexy
Sam
and
Smith is
dark.
Just another level.
So a next level. Yeah. And I was like, I want something like in this vein, but I want it to be like sexy and hard, but like just edgy, gritty, right? Yeah. And so Zach, you know, came up with Take My Bow, and then Jace and I came together and
amazing
like
song.
Wrote the lyrics. And I was like, oh, I want Arlette on this. And then, you know, Arlette did the backups with me. And
if you guys got to check out Take Bow.
Yes.
And Google it. iTunes it,
Spotify it. Give me some plays, guys.
Yeah, let's get some plays on it for
It is
Jim.
tough in these streets.
Yeah,
so.
it's hard. It's hard out here for
Jim. Seriously. But yeah, that's how Take My Bow was born.
Yeah.
I had a team in the UK because
So it did, right? So it went from here.
Yeah.
You guys produced it,
Yeah.
mixed and mastered it. I remember
Yeah.
because Arlette was like telling me about it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, so what they're gonna
What's
do
the
with
plan?
it? And then you guys send it out to
the UK.
The UK.
So we thought let's push it in the UK first
Okay.
and see what happens. So we pulled in some remixes and we sent a remix package out
Saw that.
to as many DJs in the UK as we could, right? So the entire country. So we were able to kind of see with my team how Take My Bow did in each area, right, of the UK. And it got on the charts, and I was so excited because the last time I was on the charts was the Billboard charts,
Yeah?
and this was in 2005. So my song "You Turn It On" was like 21, I think, on the Billboard dance charts. And so,
Take My Bow.
and then "Take My Bow" hit the charts, and then it kept climbing.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then it hit number 5, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like Kylie Minogue, it was like me.
Yeah.
I was just like, "I can't believe."
I don't know if you remember. I actually reposted that.
I was like, because I was like, "Dude," and
I
then
was
you were
like,
like,
yeah, I
"Dude."
was like, dude, you know your song's at number 5 right now,
It was
right?
insane. I was just like so grateful, and it was really like the catalyst for me
Yeah.
to kind of continue. It was like, okay, Jim, there's space for you.
Mad
Like
success.
keep doing this. Like
Yeah.
people are loving the song, and like
Absolutely.
it was. We had some great remixes to kind of like give it some more life, and I just thought, okay, like maybe there. I've still got some time, right?
Yeah.
I've still got some left
And
in me.
that's what music is so great because the world is so big.
Yeah.
The world is so big.
So big.
Even with that song, even like if I show like that, when did you produce that song?
So it was 2023. So September 15th was the release of it.
Right. So and I've showed this recently to some people and they think it came out yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about music.
Yes, it can be timeless.
It's timeless.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this multiple times on this show. If you have great music, your music will live on forever.
Forever. Yeah.
Forever.
Forever. You know which artist is going to be like that forever? Madonna.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forever.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Like he still get paid. Like
Yeah.
we were just talking about this. He
Whitney.
still gets paid.
Yeah.
Whitney, like
Yeah.
come on. Like, I believe Kelly's one of them as well.
100%.
Like
Yes.
their music is like you were saying. I seen Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Timeless.
Timeless.
Like this music. I sing La Bamba all the damn time. Richie Valens.
Or even taking a song and
Like-
stripping it down to just guitar or
Yeah.
piano where something's very pop. But if you bring it down
Bring it
and you just
down.
keep it really, really simple and keep it really intimate, a song can have life forever.
Yeah,
you know?
it just
So-
continues, and that's what's great about music and,
Yeah.
and our craft, right?
Yes.
Being creative and doing all that. So now we're fast forward for a little bit. We're
Yeah.
working on an EP.
Yes.
What's the process now? Like I know you're still working on it, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
Like who are you working with?
Yeah.
What producers are you working with?
Yeah.
Artists you working with?
Dennis Colon,
Like
hopefully.
Dennis Colon.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, I
yes.
got to get a song on there.
Yeah, you have to.
You know we got to get on there.
So after Take My Bow, I think at that point, people were very like, what's going on? Are you back? Are you doing an album? And I was like, I don't know. Let me figure this out. So we came up with my second single, which was Pyramid. And we kind of played that same format. We sent it out to the UK. We teamed up with some great artists. Dial Jess, who did one of my favorite remixes on both Take My Bow and Pyramid. Just In Case, incredible duo who did a remix for me for Pyramid. And we kind of put that package together and it hit number 6 on the chart. So a 5 and a 6. I was like, okay.
Yeah. It's time for number
Let's
one.
just do an EP. Like let's do an EP. Like let's flesh it out. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've got like 2 songs that are demoed out and ready for me to get in the studio. So I am hoping to have, the goal is to bring in Take My Bow, Pyramid as part of the EP. So probably 7 songs. My new single will drop on the 20th anniversary of Roller Coaster. So that'll be April 25th.
And that's coming up, right?
Yeah, so April 25th will
20
be
years.
20 years. I
Wow.
can't even believe it's been 20 years.
20
but yeah.
years, man.
Yeah, of my
Just
very first album.
Like this.
But
you're still going.
That's the thing too. It's like anybody that's listening to this that, maybe had a passion for this, or maybe you were on a show like I was, and maybe it wasn't a great experience. Maybe it was, and maybe that pilot light is still in you.
Yeah.
Touch it. Get into the studio. Write. Get it out, because there is no expiration date on success. No one tells you you're done. Like, you tell yourself when you're done. But there is room for you now. There was room for you then. Never stop creating. Never stop doing what you love. There's going to be an audience. And if you connect with them, that's all that matters. That's my...
You connect with one person, and that's it. That's for me. That's the greatest feeling in the world.
Do it because you love it.
Yeah,
right?
I still have people that hit me up, and I'm just like, whoa. Like I had a couple of people that were like, man, I was going through this part of my life.
Yeah.
I do a lot of songs like love songs, right?
Yeah.
In Spanish, I do a lot of like love songs.
Well, you came from so much here. That's why you do what you do.
Absolutely. Like, and I had trouble with mental health, and I had trouble with losing my mother.
Yeah, same. Me
and
too.
a lot of stuff, a lot of things, like and I always put that into my music.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's hard to go to the doctor or someone talk about these things, right?
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not to express yourself or to talk about what's going on with your life or anything, right?
Yeah.
But the music, like you listen to music and you can, like you said, that lady was going through some stuff when she was singing.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it.
Music is therapy.
You feel it.
Yeah.
If someone, like when I heard Take a Bow, when I heard that
Mm-hmm.
and Arlette showed it to me, I was like, man, that dude has something left.
Thank you.
And we've messaged,
we have texts and texts
yeah.
Yeah.
and I've told you, man. I'm so proud of you, and I still believe you got it.
I'm proud of you too.
And I appreciate
no, you
it.
deserve your
my flowers. Give me my flowers, Jim. Give me my flowers.
You're so talented, and like I can't say this enough, but like I know you've come from a lot, and I think that's why it's a beautiful thing that we're artists, because we're able to channel that pain and that struggle, and putting it into something that's worth something. But you have hustled for years, and I'm really proud of you. I'm excited to be here with you, to share in this moment with you, to support you in this. And honestly, I will be very, very excited when we finally have that chance to collaborate and get in that studio.
And I'm
so
gonna have
excited.
to have you back once we do that, and then we can follow up, man. And it was a pleasure to have you, man. And,
Thank you.
And like, you guys can follow him. Where can we find you at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super active on Instagram. My handle is @Jim Verraros, Verraros. You can listen to my music again on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. You can attach it to any of your posts on Instagram, whatever you can do. Support queer artists out there. We're working so hard. Support idols, support idol finalists. Just support people that really have a talent and want to share that.
Yeah, support. That's the main goal, right?
Yeah.
Just support the people that are doing things that are positive. I think that's a great message, and I'm happy to have you, man. I'm excited of the future.
Me too.
And I hope that everything works out for you and you get to the top of the mountain, man.
Thank you.
Because I strongly believe you're gonna get there. And we're always gonna have you here, and you're always gonna be a good friend
Thank
of
you
mine.
so much. Same.
And yeah, man, I hope you guys like the conversation that we have,
Yeah.
and you guys take any inspiration or anything from this conversation. We won. So that's the main goal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, check us out. I'm out, man. Let's leave it at that. What do you think?
That's it.
That's it.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. I'll see you for the next one, man. It's your boy Dennis Colon with Jim
Verraros.
There we go.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
I'll see you on the next one.
Watch me take a bow. Watch me take a bow, yeah. Watch me take a bow.